Graziano versus Hembo. It's the matchup everybody loves. Going back to 67 in the common draft. Which college program has produced the most running backs drafted in round one?
My first thought was Penn State, and Mike T and I rattled off, Saquon Barkley, Keyjana Carter, Blair Thomas, Curtis Enos, Franco Harris. We couldn't come up with another school where we could list that many off the top of our head. I'm going to say Penn State.
Penn State is correct. With 10, you are exactly right. 10 first-round running backs. Second place would be Ohio State with 8, followed by USC, Florida, Oklahoma, Georgia, Michigan, and Alabama, who all had 7.
All right.
Score that one for Graziano and company.
What's the score?
It's now 15-4. You are running up the score on Hembo, who's not here today because he knew you'd get that right. In the meantime, Graziano is back after flight delays and 3:30 a.m. wake-ups and all that stuff. He's back from Arizona with notes. Graziano, what are the Cowboys going to do with George Pickens this offseason?
I think they're going to wait because he's on the franchise tag, and that means he's not going to show up for the offseason program unless he signs it. So I think they're going to sit and wait and wait till he's ready to come back and play on the franchise tag, because while I believe they would discuss a long-term deal with George Pickens, I think their range of preferred salaries on such a deal would be lower than what he's looking for.
Okay, right now, if you look up the word conundrum in the dictionary, you would find a picture. You would find pictures, 2 pictures next to each other. One of Jerry Jones and one of George Pickens, because I see both sides of this.
Yes.
Neek, if I'm George Pickens, I don't want to play on the franchise tag, and I'm not signing for less than CeeDee Lamb is getting or any of the other top receivers. At the same time, while I almost always advocate paying the player, in this particular case, with George Pickens' history and only one great season in the rearview mirror, if I'm the Cowboys, I think I'm very hesitant to give him that deal. So when you have that conundrum, Dominique, what do you do?
All that matters about George Pickens' history is last year he was quite obviously one of the best receivers in the league, an incredible impact for that offense. Like, that's the most important thing in football. We can pretend as if all those other things matter to teams a lot more than they do. The reason why they're not going to pay him is because they don't have to. And I think that's part of the issue is as wide receiver salaries continue to go up and take up more and more of the salary cap, it gets harder and harder to pay 2 wide receivers. So it suggests to me that maybe they don't want him there long term, which I could understand would be frustrating for a player like George Pickens, who finally gets with a top-tier quarterback and is incredible. It is clearly a #1 receiver, so I'm sure he's going to get paid eventually, but it feels unlikely that he'll be with the Cowboys at any point soon.
Their best window to get a deal done was a year ago when they made the trade, and I've made lots of trades in my career contingent upon the player passing a physical and signing an extension. That's part of the rules. And I think the key number there was T. Higgins, who was at 28.75, the highest paid #2. Once you make the trade and he has a season like this, there's no way he would take anything less. In my opinion, now $40 million a year. Jackson Smith and Jigba's at 42. And once you do that, Greedy, you may solve a problem with George Pickens. You're going to create another one when CeeDee Lamb says, well, wait a second, I need to be the highest paid receiver on this team.
And then let me spin it to the other side of this thing. So now you're Pickens, Neek, and you don't get a long-term deal done before whatever the date is, July 15th or whatever it is. And now you can't do a long-term deal. And if you're going to play, you're going to play on the tag. Are you showing up for training camp? Are you playing in preseason games? Are you just showing up the week of the start of the season? This thing turns into a headache, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unnecessary to show up for anything. If they're not going to give you what you want or what you feel that you've earned, then you don't have to do any favors for them. I think some teams and some players, the situation is different because you have the full expectation that you're actually going to get a long-term deal done. The problem in this situation is the Cowboys don't seem to be positioning themselves to make a long-term deal with George Pickens. So I'm not sure why he would do them any favors. And as long as he goes out and has a healthy season, it doesn't have to be as incredible as last year. People are looking for an X, and he's shown that he can be that.
As long as he goes out and has a healthy season and plays the way he did last year, he'll be fine, whether it's with the Cowboys or somebody else. But you have to ask yourself, like, what do you have to do to make sure and have a healthy season? I mean, we watched Terry McLaurin sit out on a contract situation last year. He gets hurt early in the season.
Right.
Not the first guy that's happened to.
That always happens.
Right. So, I mean, the way you set it up is he doesn't want to play on the franchise tag. He doesn't want to play for any less than CeeDee Lamb is making. If those things are both true, then he's going to retire because he's not going to get what CeeDee Lamb is making, not from the Cowboys right now. And the franchise tag's probably his best bet. Look, I mean, we can't have this conversation without acknowledging, like Dominique wants to blow it off, that there are other issues at play here with George Pickens. They got him for a third-round pick for a reason.
But that's not why
and it was
they're not
because he
signing
didn't. What?
I think it is, Nate. I think that part of the reason why you're at least a
committing
little
long-term
hesitant.
money.
You don't think?
No. The reason why they're not signing him is because they just signed CeeDee Lamb to a contract that is exorbitant for that position at that spot. That's the reason why they're not signing him. If they don't have CeeDee Lamb, he shows up and has the year that he had last year, they're extending him for 4 or 5 years immediately. That's the reason. It's about constructing the roster. So I agree. If we lived in a perfect world, all those things would matter a lot more than they do. But they don't in the NFL. If you can ball, you're going to get paid.
There's another nuance here, which is Dallas is so desperate to fix their defense. They're sitting there with the 12th and 20th pick. And if the four of us were running the Cowboys and we were having this discussion, we'd say, like, okay, easy. Let's go just draft a receiver. Greeny, you know this draft is loaded with receivers. We'll take one at 12 or 20. But they are desperate for help at all three levels. Despite trade for Rashawn Gary, they still need another edge rusher. They need another linebacker. They need another corner. So to me, because of that, they're sort of boxed in terms of the draft. And the solution to me is really trying to fix it with George Pickens at the negotiation table, because I don't see the draft helping.
And just as a final thought, like Jerry Jones said the other day, like everyone knows the franchise tag exists, right? It's there. He didn't just make it up for this purpose. I don't like it, but it's there. I understand George Pickens isn't going to like it, but the rule exists. They're taking advantage of a rule that is in place.
And they didn't use use the exclusive franchise tag on him either, right? Which means somebody could come make an offer and give them first-round picks. No one's done that yet. If he was really a $40 million a year receiver, then we might have heard those kinds of rumblings.
This is not going to go well. Like you just have a feeling this is not. If there's one thing you just figure, I don't know exactly how. Somewhere along the way, this is not going to go well. As we continue, the 33rd pick, to be clear, a first-round pick in the NFL draft. The team controls for 5 seasons. A second-round pick and beyond, only 4 seasons. How significant a difference is that when you are building a team? So I'll just use the New York Jets for an example. They have the 33rd and 44th picks. They might be able to take Ty Simpson at 33. Is it worth them packaging those two and going up into the first round to get that 5th year?
Absolutely. When we're seeing quarterback extensions at $60 million and upwards, and certainly in 3 years it'll be more than that. The 5th-year option, there's some variability, but it could be literally half of that. So when you think about team building, if you could have an additional $30 million to support your roster, that's something you obviously want to do. We saw years ago Baltimore do that with Lamar Jackson, trade up to 32. We saw the Giants last year do it with Jackson Dart. So if you're the Jets and you use 2 and 16 on position players, and you could just shift up a couple spots at 33, that makes a lot of sense. Also, you look at teams like Arizona, and I also think another team like Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. They're at 21, but I think somewhere between 21 and those teams at the top of the second will be the sweet spot.
What do you think of it all, Dominique?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea because I think a lot of these teams are expecting, the ones who want quarterbacks are expecting next year's draft to be a little bit better for quarterbacks. So packaging up a couple of 2nd or 3rd round picks to get up into the 1st round, like those are players who play. Those are foundational pieces for teams. So to kind of roll the dice on a quarterback that you may not fully believe in, if you have hopes that next year's quarterback draft will be even stronger, I think is a risky play for some teams. That most of these teams that are looking for quarterbacks, they need a lot of other positions also, and they don't want to waste picks on a long shot.
All right, Mike T, I'm the owner and you're my general manager, and I'm going to look at you and I'm going to say he's 6'1" and he's only started 15 games as a collegian, which we know has historically been a problem. Tell me why we should be moving aggressively to take him in the 1st round.
He's a really good player. He can make all the throws. Look, the first half of this year, he was outstanding. May have been a top 10 pick. He got hurt, he got sick, and the supporting cast wasn't what it once was. He's a better athlete than people realize, and to me, if he could sit for a year because of that 15 games, you could come out with somebody that looks like Brock Purdy, looks like Bo Nix, looks like Baker Mayfield. His height isn't ideal, but you don't know what next year is going to bring. And if you have an opportunity and you don't have a quarterback, take a shot.
I learned something this morning, by the way, and that is that you can bet on where these players are going to get drafted. I have to confess, I was not aware those were odds that were offered, but
quite
they are.
handsomely too.
Okay, tell me. Tell me what the
All right,
what
so
the
there's
bet
a
is
lot
here.
with Simpson. If you want to look at how the betting market's shaping up to get an idea of where he might go, that's his over-under for draft position, 24.5, meaning an over bet is a selection at number 25 or later. An under bet would be a selection at 24 or earlier. Note the juice on the over at minus 230. That makes it a pretty significant favorite there. So ask yourself, based on what those guys are thinking, pick number 24 is the Cleveland Browns. Would that be the pick? Would someone trade into that spot? It looks like he's going to go later, although he is a small favorite to go in the first round at minus 200. So that's something to consider as well.
Joe, I got a question. Will that move a lot between now and the draft?
A lot. Yeah, a lot. As basically the key to this, I shouldn't even say this out loud, but once Schefter starts talking more during the final week, especially the notes column that comes out 2 days before, that was the one that had Michael Penix to the Falcons. Pay attention to that if you want to get ahead of it.